Okay, so let's kick off this deep dive with a bit of well, a thought experiment. And honestly, this one is kind of a nightmare scenario.
It really is. I know exactly the one you mean.
Right. So I want you to imagine that a god or, just a very strict, wise master comes up and stands right next to you. And this master gives you a command.
A very specific command.
Exactly. From this exact second forward, every single thought that enters your mind, you have to immediately speak it out loud.
No filtering at all.
None. No editing. Just straight from the brain to the mouth. Imagine walking into a meeting or a dinner party or even just sitting on the couch with your partner.
Every stray judgment.
Every weird impulse, every little insecurity just broadcast live. The source material says, quite bluntly, that no one could endure that for even a single day, not one day.
It is a terrifying proposition, but it really highlights the tension at the center of the human experience. This comes straight from Section 3 of the text we are looking at today. It exposes this really fascinating paradox.
Yeah, it hit me hard.
Because, as the author points out, we all love ourselves more than we love anyone else.
Yeah.
That is just biological fact, right? We are wired for self-preservation. And yet, and here's the twist, we value the opinions of others more than we value our own.
That is the part that is so wild to me. If we love ourselves so much, why are we so terrified of our neighbor realizing we had a weird thought? We fear their judgment more than our own self-assessment. It is like we are performing a play for an audience we don't even
necessarily like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We prioritize the external validation over the internal reality.
Yeah.
And I think this sets the stage perfectly for what we are doing today.
Right. Today we are taking a deep dive into Book 12 of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
The finale.
The end of the road.
It is the final chapter, yes.
Right.
And because it is the end, you can really feel a shift in the tone. If you have read the previous books, they are often about duty, discipline, dealing with annoying people. But Book 12.
It feels different. It is urgent. It is focused on finality, on death, and really on stripping away all the unnecessary luggage of life, as he calls it, to find some peace before the clock runs out.
Luggage is such a good word for it. It feels like he is packing his bags, checking his pockets, and just making sure he is only carrying what actually matters.
Exactly.
So let's look at that packing list. In Section 2, he does this breakdown of what a human being actually is. And it is not just the standard mind and body thing. He slices it into 3 parts.
Yes, the anatomy of the self. He lists them as the body, the life, and the mind.
Okay, so the body is obvious. That is the meat, the vessel.
Right. And then there is the life. In the text, this refers to the breath, the pneuma, the animate spirit that essentially keeps the biological machine running. It is the engine. But Marcus points out something crucial here.
What's that?
The body and the life, they aren't properly yours.
Wait, hold on. My life isn't mine. I'm pretty sure I'm the one paying the gym membership and, eating the salads.
You are maintaining them, sure, but in the Stoic sense, they are not yours because they are not under your total command.
Ah, right. Control.
Yes, you are bound to take care of them, but they are subject to things outside your control. Sickness, accidents, aging. These things happen to the body and the life regardless of what you want. Even if you do everything perfectly right, the body can still fail.
So they aren't fully under my jurisdiction?
Precisely. The only thing that is properly yours is the third part, the mind, the intellect.
I really like the image he uses here. He talks about God looking at a human being. God doesn't look at the fancy clothes or the house or the reputation. He sees the mind bare and naked.
It is a striking image, stripping away the material vessel and the earthly dross. The goal of this deep dive, and really the goal of his entire philosophy, is to get the mind to that naked state on its own, to separate it from the noise before you die so you aren't just scrambling at the end.
And the noise list is pretty specific. He says we need to separate the mind from what others do or say, which is hard enough given that paradox we started with, but also what you have done in the past and fear of the future.
That is the luggage we mentioned earlier. If your mind is attached to a regret from 10 years ago or a worry about next week, it is not free. It is encumbered. It is weighed down by things that technically don't exist right now.
So if we manage to drop all that luggage, if we strip naked, metaphorically speaking, what are we left with? There's this really cool, almost slightly sci-fi metaphor he uses, the sphere of Empedocles.
Yes, all round and circular.
It sounds like a geometry problem to me. What does it actually mean for a human to be a sphere?
It is a symbol of perfect self-containment. Think about a shape with jagged edges or hooks. Those hooks catch on things. They catch on a memory of an ex or a fear of an upcoming job interview.
They get snagged.
Exactly. But a sphere, A sphere has no jagged edges. It is balanced. It is complete in itself. When Marcus tells himself to become like Empedocles' sphere, he is telling himself to pull his attention back from the past and the future and inhabit only the present moment.
So if you are round, you aren't stretched thin by anxiety. You aren't leaning forward into tomorrow or leaning back into yesterday.
You are living, as he says, by yourself and to yourself. You are dealing with the present moment justly, accepting what happens, and speaking the truth. That is the sphere. It rolls through life without getting snagged.
I love that visual, just rolling through the chaos. But doing that requires a certain kind of toughness, which brings us to one of my absolute favorite analogies in this entire book. It is in section 6. He compares two types of fighters, the gladiator and the pancratist.
The pancratist being basically an ancient wrestler or MMA fighter.
Right. And normally we think of the gladiator as the ultimate tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
But Marcus actually uses the gladiator as the example of what not to be.
It is a brilliant distinction regarding mental readiness. Think about the gladiator. He is terrifying, right? But he relies on a sword.
A tool. Yeah. Something external.
Exactly. If the gladiator drops his sword or if it breaks, he is defenseless. He is dead. His power is entirely dependent on something he has to pick up. He has to go find it.
Versus the wrestler.
The wrestler doesn't need a tool. His weapons are his own hands and feet. They are part of him. As Marcus writes, he doesn't need to go looking for a sword. He just needs to clench his fist.
That is such a powerful way to think about resilience.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are gladiators. We are okay as long as we have our swords.
Our routines.
Yeah, our coffee, our specific morning routine, our bank account, the validation of our boss. But if you knock that sword out of our hand, if the Wi-Fi goes down or the bank account drops, panic.
We crumble. We don't know what to do because our confidence was in the thing, not in the self. And Marcus is saying, don't be the gladiator. Internalize your principles, your patience, your reason, your ability to handle stress. Those should be like your hands, always attached to you. You shouldn't have to go looking for a self-help book when a crisis hits. You should just be able to clench your fist and handle it.
But how do we get that wrestler strength? Because it is not natural for most of us to be that calm. If someone insults me, my natural reaction is to get angry, not to be a perfectly smooth sphere.
He actually gives a very practical answer in section V. He uses the analogy of the left hand.
The left hand.
Think about it. For most people, the left hand is idle. It is weaker than the right hand because it isn't used as much for detailed tasks. But, he points out, look at a horseman. When holding the bridle, the left hand holds it with more strength and control than the right hand.
Because it practices. That is its specific job.
Because it has been used to it. The lesson here is that practice makes even the unnatural natural. You might feel left-handed or clumsy when you first try to be patient, or when you first try to ignore an insult, or when you try to apply these Stoic principles. It feels weird.
It feels totally unnatural.
But if you keep gripping the bridle, eventually that grip becomes iron. You can train your mind just like you train a weak limb.
I love that. It's basically ancient neuroplasticity. You can rewire the brain through repetition.
Essentially, yes. And he really needs that strength, that wrestler strength, because in Book 12, he tackles the heaviest subject of all. The one thing you cannot train your way out of avoiding, death.
Yeah, this is where the book gets really solemn. In section 4, he asks a question that I think anyone who has lost someone good has asked. It is a theological question, really. He asks, why do good, holy men people who have contracted a familiarity with God, why do they just die and become extinct like everyone else?
It is a cry of grief, almost.
Yeah.
He is asking, if these men were so good, why aren't they restored to life? Why is it just over? Where is the justice in that?
And his answer isn't very comforting and fuzzy. It is pure logic.
It is ruthless logic, but there is comfort in it if you follow him. He argues that if it were just for them to live again, God would have made it so. The fact that it isn't so is proof that it shouldn't be so.
So he is saying, don't accuse the universe of making a mistake.
Exactly. He says if you argue against the reality of death, you are accusing God or nature of being unjust or negligent. And since his entire worldview is based on the idea that the universe is well-ordered and rational, he has to accept that even the extinction of a good man is correct. It's the pattern. To fight it is to fight reality.
It is hard to swallow, though. The idea that it's right just because it's happening.
It is hard, but he follows it up with a beautiful metaphor in section XL to help us accept it. The candle.
Oh, right. The light of a candle.
He says a candle shines brightly and lightsome until it is extinguished. It doesn't lose its nature just because it is about to go out. It doesn't flicker in fear. It doesn't turn into something ugly right at the end. It just shines.
And the application is that truth, Righteousness, temperance, these things shouldn't stop shining in you just because you are getting old or dying. You shine until the very second you are out.
Yes. The ending doesn't invalidate the light. The fact that the candle burns out doesn't mean its light wasn't beautiful or useful.
And to really drive that point home,
Hmm.
the ending is just a natural process and that trying to extend it for fame is pointless. He starts naming names. This is in section XX.
I always love when he gets specific. It grounds the philosophy in actual history.
He asks, where are they now? And he lists these guys: Fabius Capitolinus, Lucius Lupus, Tiberius and Capreia.
Big shots in their day. Emperors, generals, wealthy men.
Vehement in their worldly pursuits, he calls them. They were hustling, stressing, building empires. And now,
Smoke, ashes, a mere fable, or not even a fable because people have forgotten them entirely.
it is a major reality check. We stress so much about our legacy, about how we will be remembered. And Marcus is like, look at Velius Rufus. You don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
And he was probably stressing about the exact same things you are.
And he twists the knife a little further here. He says, to be proud of not being proud is the most intolerable form of pride.
Oof, the ultimate humble brag.
Beware of thinking you are better than these dead men just because you know they are dead. Don't get arrogant about your own humility. We are all heading to the exact same smoke and ashes.
So if we are all smoke and ashes, and we are all trapped in this incredibly short life, how do we not get depressed? How do we connect to something bigger? Because that sounds pretty bleak on the surface.
This is where he zooms out. The view from above. In section XE3, he talks about the single light.
This is the idea that even though sunlight is broken up by walls and mountains, it is still one single light.
Correct, and he applies that to us. There is one common substance in the universe, even if it is broken into different physical bodies. And there is one common intellectual soul, even if it is divided among different people.
So we are all tapping into the same Wi-Fi, basically.
In a manner of speaking, yes. He wants us to see that we aren't isolated fragments. Section Tecti 4th and 8th urge us to look at life from on high. When you look at the immense vastness of time before you were born and the infinite time after you die, your ego naturally shrinks.
Is the pale blue dot perspective, just thousands of years early.
It really is. And when you see that vastness, you realize how small your daily grievances are. This leads directly to his technique for dealing with insults or emotional pain. He calls it casting away opinion.
This is the harbor metaphor, right? Section 6.6.
Yes. He says that everything troubling you is just an opinion. Saying, I have been hurt is an opinion. If you remove the opinion, the complaint disappears entirely. And he compares this state of mind to a ship striking the quiet of the harbor.
Instant calm.
A bay not capable of any storms. That is what is available to you if you stop judging everything that happens to you as bad or unfair. If you just see it as merely happening, the storm dies down.
It sounds so simple, but it is so incredibly hard. Just stop having an opinion, man.
Simple, but not easy. That is exactly why you need to be the wrestler, not the gladiator. You have to train for it. You have to use that left hand until it is strong enough to just drop the opinion.
So we have covered the anatomy of the self, the need for internal weapons, the acceptance of death, and the cosmic connection. But now we have to wrap it up, just like Marcus does. And he ends Book 12, and effectively the whole work with a theater metaphor.
The actor and the play, section have 8 XT7. It is a profoundly beautiful way to close.
So, the setup is this. A man is complaining. He says, hey, I've only acted 3 acts of the play. A play is supposed to have 5 acts.
He feels cheated. He feels his life is incomplete because he is dying young or sooner than he expected. He wants the full run.
And the rebuttal.
The rebuttal is, thou hast well said, for in matter of life, 3 acts is the whole play.
If the playwright says it is over, it is over.
Exactly. The length of the play is not up to the actor. It is up to the director, the magistrate, or nature, or God. Your job as the actor isn't to determine the length of the performance. Your job is to act those 3 acts well.
Whether it is a short cameo or a leading role that lasts decades, the quality of the acting is what matters, not the runtime.
And that leads to the final instruction of the text, the very last thing he wants us to hear. Go thy ways, then, well-pleased, contented, for so is he that dismisseth thee.
Go thy ways well pleased. That is, well, it's surprisingly gentle for a guy who just told us we are all going to be smoke and ashes.
It is gentle. It is an invitation to leave the party without making a scene, to accept the dismissal with grace, to say thank you for the invite, rather than screaming that you weren't done eating.
It circles back to that question about the justice of the gods, doesn't it?
It does, and I think that is the final provocation we should leave you with today. Marcus spends a lot of time in Book 12 reassuring himself that this system is just, that death isn't a mistake.
Right.
But think about that gladiator versus wrestler analogy one last time. If you truly accept that the play can end at any moment, that 3 acts is a full run, does that make your choices today less meaningful because they are fleeting?
Or does it make them more meaningful?
Precisely. If you knew the curtain was dropping in an hour, would you still be holding that grudge? Would you still be worrying about the luggage of the future?
Probably not. You would just want to act that final scene well. You would want to be the candle that shines right up until the end.
So the question you have to ask yourself is, are you living like the gladiator, waiting for the sword of a long retirement or a big legacy to validate your life? Or are you the wrestler, ready to be well-pleased and contented even if the curtain drops right now, today?
Are you ready to be dismissed from the stage?
That is the ultimate question.
Heavy stuff, but necessary stuff. That is Book 12.
The end of the road.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Take that question with you, and we will catch you next time.